Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about Doctor Who getting the boot from Disney Plus, and somehow it's Trump's fault. It's MAGA's fault.
Yes, it couldn't possibly be because the show sucked and the viewership was terrible, and you had Gatwa and Davies out there being activists and trying to insult half the audience and everything else. You know, and the fact that Disney was going to get rid of it before Trump was elected, it was already out there that was already probably a done deal. You know, no, it's because of Trump.
Because of Trump. It's Trump's USA. No, yeah, we're going to talk about this, and this is complete bunk. The show was always, in my opinion, going to get dropped from Disney Plus because Disney is cutting all kinds of corners right now. They overspent on streaming. When this was greenlit, when they agreed to co-produce Doctor Who, they were going on a spending spree trying to get content for Disney Plus.
They also were doing Reimagine Tomorrow then and all that stuff when they started making these deals.
Yep, and they don't own Doctor Who. Like, they're not going to throw more money at Doctor Who. Doctor Who, to the best of my knowledge, on Disney Plus never even charted. Like, you never saw Paranormal or any of that stuff.
No. It didn't. Yeah. And, you know, they're going to say, oh, it's MAGA politics. And they keep trying to tie it to Jimmy Kimmel and all that crap.
Oh, my God.
It's like, listen, just because Disney announces it now doesn't mean that one has anything to do with the other. Because it's been rumored for, oh, my gosh, more than a year. It was last year that after they finished the second season and it was absolute dog shit, that everybody was saying, insiders at Disney said they were going to not renew. And we had reports of them searching for a new partner months ago. It had nothing to do with Jimmy Kimmel. It had nothing to do with MAGA and the FCC and all. You're full of shit. You are just pulling things out of your butt, which is obviously shit since you're full of it at this point.
So let's talk about this before we get into it any further. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. You'll get a woohoo if you do.
Woohoo!
Now it's interesting. It's interesting. This is the second most popular article on Deadline after the Fresh Prince child actor was 42. I think he played Will when he was a kid, I guess. So R.I.P. him. But like, nobody talks about Doctor Who otherwise. They don't.
Okay, if this is their number one story or like their number two story today, then I find I have some questions because Doctor Who stuff doesn't usually get a lot of traction. So Deadline's doing shit normally? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, I think it's because Disney, MAGA.
Yeah, because they're putting politics, and everybody get mad because they're because of Trump, like Jimmy Kimmel. They're going to do this to the BBC. It's like, no, they were going to do this last year. It's been reported on 4 months before Trump was elected that Disney was likely not going to renew because they didn't make any money and the show was garbage. No one was watching it. And when we say no one, the ratings are bad globally. We're not just talking about the U.S. The UK people didn't watch it. The U.S. people didn't watch it. The other markets that it was presented to didn't watch it. Can't all be because of Trump, can it? Yeah,
so let's just talk about that here real quick. The ratings for Doctor Who for the last season were the worst in the series history. The worst in the series history. And that's with a global audience. So with +7, TV and screens. So, streaming globally, apparently it was only doing 2.8 million, 2.7 million, around 3 million, right?
Then we're talking globally, guys. That's globally.
Yeah. I had, now this is, Google AI, so take it for whatever it's worth. But, it's good just going out and searching, right? So I have pulled up what the average viewership was in the new series and compared to the 80s. Now, when the show was canceled back in the 1980s, the late 80s, it still had 4 to 5 million people, and that was in the UK. Like
that's what I was going to say. When you told me that, I was like, well, that wouldn't have been now because they didn't have the global audience like they have now in the 80s.
But that was even abysmal, and a lot of the newer episodes were hovering around that number before the big drop off with Ncuti Gatwa, and it's abysmal. And they switched out Peter Capaldi because the ratings were starting to dip down.
He was doing better.
He was doing better. He was pulling like twice the numbers, and he was. Can I take a moment and just again?
Here we go.
Peter Capaldi was a freaking fantastic doctor. Peter Capaldi was an amazing doctor. He was shortchanged. He did not get the scripts he should have had.
They gave him crap to work with. They really did.
He did have some good episodes, but not enough of them. But my God, when he was on, when you got all the stars aligned, and you got him monologuing, and you got a good script,
Yeah.
And you had throw Missy in there because I freaking love Missy.
Now, Missy was great. I got tired of
was
Bill
good.
because we mentioned she likes women. Did we mention she's a lesbian? Hey guys, in case you didn't know, Bill's a lesbian. Every episode they had to make sure you knew this. Not that it mattered. It was just that it was like, yes, we know. It's been established.
What's your story arc? Oh yeah, I went from being gay to like really gay over the course of a season. But yeah, so he was massively underutilized, and he wanted to play. He was a huge Doctor Who fan. Obviously, you can tell in his performance. He wanted to play the Doctor forever. Like he wanted to beat Tom Baker, and they cut him off at the knees and replaced him with Jodie Whittaker. And now I don't think he's publicly thrown any shade at anybody. In fact, he seems like he's a really nice guy. He's not, the type to do that. But my God, if they had actually given him a decent companion and some decent scripts, they'd probably still be chugging at least at 4 or 5 million.
Yeah, but I mean, the decent scripts was a big. That was a
huge problem. Well, and I think Moffat at that point, he was checked out. He was working on Sherlock, and now you don't hear anything about Sherlock.
It got to the place. It got so exhausting. It was like, oh, look how clever I am. It got to the place where you're watching an episode and your head hurt because you're just like, he's trying so hard to make these twists and these turns and not make it come together to the end that eventually just got tiresome.
Yeah, but just to put this in perspective, so yeah, the late 80s when they canceled Doctor Who, 4 to 5 million, and here's what it was during the new show when it first came back. The average viewership for Eccleston was almost 8 million, right? The premiere was over 10 million people. David Tennant, the average viewership, we knew it was high, it was 8.35 million. Matt Smith's era was almost 8 million, so it was pretty steady, right? It was about 8 million people. You could count on 8 million people watching Doctor Who until we got to Capaldi, and then it started to drop a little bit, 6.42 million. And then Jodie Whittaker, 6.13. Now, her last season did not do well at all. And it is.
Yeah, but that was that. Even though it didn't do well at all, it still did better than both seasons with Ncuti Gatwa.
Yes, that's where I'm getting at. Like her era, it was really dropping off, and I think that's when they panicked and they're like, "Oh, we need to bring David Tennant back and bring Russell T Davies back," and all they did was bring him back to bury Doctor Who.
Well, they brought David Tennant back, and then it was immediately, this isn't the same Doctor. And he likes guys now, and he has a hots for a race-swapped Isaac Newton. And we mentioned we're going to have to lecture him on pronouns.
Yeah, he just got done being a woman. Yeah. I think he gets it. That was really freaking stupid. And David Tennant, man, I mean, I just I used to love David Tennant, but lately I cannot stand listening to him because his politics he is so far left.
That's what's happening. Same with Mark Hamill and crap. It's just.
David Tennant makes Mark Hamill look like he's MAGA. I mean,
but
he's
I'm just saying, he's
really
insane.
far gone. Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, you can see it dropped off a freaking cliff. So yeah, why did they cancel it? Had nothing to do with Trump. Is because the ratings sucks. So this is what they said in Deadline. They said they talked to an industry source. They said Doctor Who became too woke for Trump's USA, and this was a factor in Disney's minds when it came to renewal. The thing is, my understanding is they already decided to not produce any more episodes or co-produce any more episodes of Doctor Who before Trump got reelected.
Yeah, that's just it. That was the rumor. The rumor was that Disney had already decided this, and it was like, oh my gosh, last year,
like a year ago or more. I mean,
yeah,
it
was easy last year.
Yeah.
It was the rumor. Of course, I think it was confirmed, but there was enough of people that were saying it, and enough. There were suddenly reports that they were looking for a new partner and stuff like that in the last few months. That it was obvious that was the case. But the rumor started over a year ago, and basically they're trying to link it to Trump, the Trump's USA, and anti-woke. Yes, it's anti-woke because every stupid episode was somehow about some far leftist agenda to the place we got lesser pronouns, then we had to have now the doctors making out with guys and all other crap and everything else.
Yeah.
And it was more about the agenda than it was about the story. And don't give me, it's always been progressive. 100% yes. 100% it's always been progressive. But it's been done with nuance, and it was still entertaining, and it was still more about the show and the characters and what was going on than it was about the agenda. But now it's all about agenda because Gatwa and Davies only care about agenda.
Underwriter. Yeah, underwritey. Underwhitey. Doctor Who's Underwhitey Davies.
I was going to say.
Underwriter Davies. It's a mouthful. The series is
He would know
cast.
about mouthfuls.
Oh God! The series has cast transgender actress Yasmin Finney, featured drag queen Jinx Monsoon as a villain, and played host to a historic gay kiss between Gatwa and Jonathan Groff, some of which drew complaints from BBC viewers. If it's about Trump, why are you even? Why are you bringing up the BBC viewers?
And that's what I'm trying to say. It's like it just seems to me like it's a global issue. The show did not perform. And Gatwa was out there basically telling people how to touch grass, and they did. No one watched the premiere.
Literally, yeah.
So that just tells me that no one's interested in it, and they're going to make instead of saying maybe we screwed up, maybe it's not what people wanted. It's because everybody else in the world's a bigot.
Yeah, I think it was Jinx Monsoon that basically said, "Well, that's okay. Let them leave if they're mad about it, because for every straight white male that quits Doctor Who, we're going to have 5 more diverse people they're going to take his place."
I don't know if it was that person, or if it was the girl played Ruby or whatever. I don't know.
Well, I don't know what. But I'm like, how many diverse people do you think have a legitimate interest in Doctor Who? Right? Like most of the people that are the diehard Doctor Who fans have been watching it for decades. It's just like comic books, right? It's just like, how old do you think the average comic book reader is now? Because you're acting like you can just dispose of a bunch of 40, 50-year-old men and get a whole bunch of teenagers and 20-somethings, and they have no interest in comic books. A lot of them, right? So it's like Doctor Who. Like Doctor Who is an old science fiction show. The people that are interested in Doctor Who are older, a lot of them, or they have
kept
families.
It around for years.
Yep.
And they keep wanting to change this for this new audience, and then of course it's because you're racist, because you don't like him because he's black.
Because
and
you're racist.
And it's like Jodie Whittaker. It's because you were a misogynist, but her scores were higher. I checked out as soon as I watched the first couple episodes of Whittaker, and I was like, and then I checked out. And actually, I was the one saying a female doctor was stupid, and none of the guys I knew said that. The one who was saying it was me, and I was a woman. So I, kiss my butt, I guess.
Well, the article is really interesting. They basically said that Dana Walden was in London, and it's very obvious that Doctor Who was not among her priorities. And they said that when they basically canceled Doctor Who, the BBC put a statement out, but Disney didn't put anything out. They didn't care. And they said that Disney didn't even seem to care that much about it. They said it wasn't for the long term. It was pretty apparent from early on this wasn't for the long term.
Said 2 seasons.
Yeah, 2 seasons, which were basically like 10 episodes. It was a 1 season, basically. Says a former Disney executive, everyone got the impression that wasn't doing what it needed to do on Disney Plus to be sustainable. Another person close to Doctor Who adds, the writing has been on the wall for ages. There's been a complete lack of enthusiasm over at Disney. They talked about it at first, and then they just didn't.
There's a lack of enthusiasm across the board. That's the problem. Like, you really need to rest it for a while, because no one wants it anymore. And blaming it on Trump is the most. Okay, when you've come to the point you're trying to somehow pin this on Trump, then you know that you've lost the plot and you have no other excuses.
Yeah. Yeah, they're saying that they weren't promoting as much as Marvel and Star Wars. I'm like, they don't own Doctor Who. They don't own it.
Why would they? Yeah.
Why would they? Why are they? They're already spending enough money on it. Look, and the one thing I've said the whole time, regardless of how you feel about Russell T Davies, regardless of how you feel about Ncuti Gatwa, the show looked good. It looked expensive, right? And they're probably looking at like, we spent a shit ton of money on Doctor Who, and what are we getting for it? And we don't even own it.
If you had a doctor that, even if you used Ncuti Gatwa, but you had scripts and stuff that was like, actual Doctor Who and not, Doctor Who am I doing today, then you might have kept the audience. But you didn't.
Wow, it just goes on. This is so.
I know. And then at the end they blame Trump.
So this is what I like, though. I liked reading. I like this. So YouTubers like us, we get demonized by people because they believe whatever the studio spin is, right? And then it comes out after the fact, like a year or two later, that we were actually right.
Yeah, that happens all the time.
So they said it was a ratings flop. They said that Doctor Who's, this is Entertainment Strategy Guy, a blog, branded Doctor Who's debut on Disney as one of the big flops of 2024. Yeah. There was a lack of buzz on award shows. Nobody cared. On the BBC, it has seen an alarming drop-off in viewing figures. Season 15 averaged only 3.8 million viewers, according to gold standard 28-day viewing figures from Barb. Poor Barb, the UK's official ratings agency. It's a 1 million 1 million person viewer decline on the prior season, and that was bad.
Yes, and then by the end of her run, it was terrible.
Yeah. And everybody's like, oh, yeah, thanks, Disney, whatever.
But then they blame it on Trump. But
they blame it on Trump.
It goes on and on and on and on. And then they get down and they say that one insider, or this one down here, no, down below. Another well-placed source says Doctor Who became too woke for Trump's USA. And it was a factor in Disney minds when it came to renewal. And then he brought that. You read that already. But then they go down here because you read it.
They want to minimize MAGA rap.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And then they're trying to tie it to Jimmy Kimmel. The author of the article tries to tie it to Jimmy Kimmel. It's like, this has nothing to do with that. This was already...
Yeah,
it's already going. It was likely happening before this. It has these seasons were out before Trump was reelected.
Yeah. So this is interesting. They said one former Disney exec reckons the BBC will be able to spend at most £2.5 million to £3 million per episode, which could work out to $1 million per episode from the BBC's own pocket. I don't know what the math is compared to US dollars. And any additional coming from BBC Studios distribution, that would see Doctor Who's budget slashed by half from the Disney days. Once you've gone up, it's always difficult to go back down. You can cut budgets to a certain degree, but not by much. Is the BBC really going to stump up even more for something showing decline?
They're just going to start charge people more and say, hey, you have to pay for our propaganda.
I was joking that the only way they could do Doctor Who going forward, if the BBC has to bankroll itself, is to do like they did with the third Doctor with John Pertwee. So what they did with him is they basically dropped him off on Earth and said, oh, the TARDIS is broken. So you can't go anywhere expensive. You're stuck here.
This is interesting, though. Finding another American buyer for Doctor Who will be tough going. The ex-Disney source added, while striking piecemeal deals across Europe and Latin America may prove difficult for a show that is ultimately quintessentially British, how do you suddenly convince a buyer to take Doctor Who when it hasn't been on their platform for so long? It hasn't been. Why would you take some? How would you convince somebody to take it when it doesn't even bring viewers?
Well, that's just it. You're not going to. What you're supposed to do be like, yeah, hey, I know we failed hard on Disney Plus and we cost them millions and millions of dollars, and we became a laughing stock. Hey, Amazon, would you give us some more money so we could try again? And you know what I'm saying? Like they'd have to reset the whole thing.
I'm just like, it's like you have burgers and they're made, and instead of doing burgers, you're making these things that are just like made out of a mishmash of different things and it tastes like crap. And then no one wants to buy your, I used to love your burgers, but now you've made it crap and no one wants to buy your crap. So you go to investors and say, hey, invest in my restaurant because the bigots won't buy my crap. And then they're going to be like, well, are you going to fix your crap? No, it's still going to be crap. Well, then they're not going to give you the money.
Yeah, they're not going to. They're still trying to get American money. I'm like, look, you had America. You had the audience with David Tennant and Matt Smith, mostly Matt Smith. I remember they had a huge push for Doctor Who during the Matt Smith era. We had the toys over here. We had all that stuff. But I would say Doctor Who was kind of an early test case for the whole shipper thing because they had the romantic love triangle subplots and all that stuff going on. You had a younger, conventionally attractive Doctor. You had the younger companions, the whole romance angle, which admittedly for an old head like me was very weird to see on Doctor Who because that wasn't something that they did back then. But it worked to get Americans interested in the show, and then you change the formula completely. It's like
you turned your burgers to crap.
Yeah, pretty much. Like you had the formula. You basically just needed a younger male Doctor, a potential female love interest and love triangle, and adventures in time and space. And that, a little bit of humor, and that would have worked, right? But they changed it, and it failed. And then they just kept getting further and further away from burgers. Like, okay, went from burgers, to sloppy joes, which are burger adjacent, I guess, a little messy, whatever. Okay, now we're gonna do tacos because it still has hamburger in it, but now we're just gonna do quesadillas. We're gonna take the meat out completely, and it doesn't even resemble. It's got carbs. Cheese.
Carbs.
That's about it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then who's going to invest in that?
Nobody's.
It's Trump's fault.
It's Trump's fault.
What would they have done if Trump hadn't won? Who would they have blamed then? Because it still would have failed.
I don't know. No, that would still have been like, right wing backlash because, all the right wingers were attacking poor Disney. And, but yeah, it had nothing to do with Trump. The decision was made a year ago, 2 years ago. They probably, as soon as I'll tell you the truth, as soon as the numbers started rolling in for it, they probably had immediate buyer's remorse. They're probably like, oh shit, but we have a contract, so we got to do what we got to do. Right. Flush that turd burger.
Yeah. But it's not, it failed globally.
Yeah.
You're not going to say it's because you're not going to tie it to Jimmy Kimmel and all this. That's a load of shit. If anybody's been watching this channel about Doctor Who this whole time, you know that the reports where Disney was pulling out months ago, year ago.
Yeah, you can see the decline too. When we first started talking about Doctor Who, we're like, hey, Doctor Who's getting pretty weird, right? With the Jodie Whittaker stuff. We would pull in 150, 200,000 views on those videos, and then you could just see it. Now it's like a Doctor Who video gets maybe 20,000 views.
That's why I was like, that's Deadline's second most popular article. Yeah, that says to me that they don't get a lot of views.
Good. I don't think they are. I think all these media outlets are desperately trying to whip up outrage like it's 2018 because they're trying to cling to relevance because Google has just like destroyed the internet. We gave Google all the power and they've just completely nuked the internet. So I don't know. I think Doctor Who's the least of their concerns. Are we going to wrap it up?
Yes.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk later.
Bye.